this for you guys. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Thunder. Last week was just Schooley, and I guess this week is just me because he's gone. But hold on, let me bring him on. There he is. You guys don't get that lucky. You don't get a Just Shooters show this week just because I was gone last week and Thomas and Deandra ran the show. I actually listened to the show, but welcome back, Thomas Schooley. Class is in session.
Been a bad week for the Lightning, so.
Oh, he's sad.
This would have been the day to take off.
It hasn't been that bad since you and Deandra were on the show. We are 2-2, but we did just lose 2 back-to-back games up in Canada, and last night wasn't pretty. But we will talk about that. I don't want to waste any time. I want to bring in our special guest this week, the marathon this month. We've got great guests all month this month. This is a new guest, another new guest this week. How do we describe this guest? I describe him as the radio man, myth, and legend because I always kind of heard his name, whether I was listening to The Bone or whether I was over at Dignitary Cafe, and Ian's like, you should know Mike O. And finally this year, or maybe it was last year, but I met Mike O. We had exchanged some texts and emails and stuff, but we finally met this year, and I finally twisted his arm to come on the show. So let's bring him on with a little thunderclap. And there he is, Mike Olivero. You've probably heard his name before if you've listened to 102.5 The Bone. Mike, what is your actual job?
I oversee the marketing and promotions for all 6 of our brands. So in addition to The Bone, we got 97X, we got Magic, we got Dove, we got Eagle, we got the Vibes. So I oversee all the promotion and marketing, and then was doing the regular pre-game show, now just doing it on weekends, and then normally Saturdays 2 to 4. And then I filled in for just about every show on The Bone when they've been on vacation. So been there 15 years, love it.
I was going to say, not if you've listened to The Bone, but Mike has been in the Tampa market for a long time.
Yes, I'm old.
Clear Channel, iHeart. Yeah, I remember back in the Clear Channel days when Mike was a big name back then, and it's just gotten bigger. You just hear it more and more now on The Bone because, yeah, he does have his own show on the Saturdays also, if you guys listen to it. It's like a hodgepodge of everything, but he definitely talks sports on it. And then this year, he really started ramping up the pre show.
Wah. And that.
But we can still catch you sometimes every Saturday you have your show. But
Every Saturday, yeah.
If there's Lightning game, then you're still going to have the pre-game show.
Yep.
With some great guests. I was telling you I was listening on Saturday on my way downtown, and you were on with Deandra, who was on the show last week.
Deandra's great. Love Deandra, and yeah, she was on the pod last week. And man, talk about a girl who knows her hockey. You know, sometimes they'll put people up there like, oh, she's pretty, and we'll just feed her some stuff. Deandra can rattle off stuff like that. She knows more than a lot of guys do, so she's very good at what she does.
I was telling her last week when it was just her and I, because she was on a year and a half ago, and it was just her and Shooter. I was missing the show because I was at a live taping of the Block Party, Emily, and so it was just them two. And she brought up how much we were missing Ryan McDonough, and that you could see that in the defense. Now we have her a year and a half later. So I said to her, "How full circle moment is this? That a year and a half ago you're talking about we're missing Ryan McDonough. Now you're on the podcast talking about how it's so good having Ryan McDonough back."
Yeah, she's been banging that drum for a while. I had the pleasure of getting to sit next to her up in the press box, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. And her, not only the knowledge, but the passion she has for it. It's like second to none. It's fun when you get to do a job you love, and she's in that space and in that position. And I mean, I think her ceiling is just like way high. So kudos to you guys for having her on again, and kudos to her for all the great job that she does and for helping us out.
Yeah, and kudos to you, Thomas. It was I didn't turn it off. I listened to the whole episode. Yeah, it was good. And I'm impressed that you went back and listened to the last time she was on. So nice job with that. All right. So a lot of things to talk about. We've had 4 games. It seems like every week this week we've had 4 games. The schedule is grueling. We started on New Year's Day, just me and Thomas. We pulled up the schedule. I should have pulled the clip of what our predictions were because at that time, the Lightning had an amazing December, and I think
Yeah.
I think Thomas predicted like 3 losses in December as we kind of went through the calendar, or pretty close to that. But here we are in what 5, 6, and 1. So it's not awful, right? We're still winning almost half the games. But what happened? What happened since December with this team? Because it's not the same hockey that we were seeing in December. Do you guys have any theories on what you think's going on with the team? I mean, to me, I think maybe they're just tired. I mean, you're playing so many games now, they can't keep it up. But I'm curious kind of what you guys think is leading to the team kind of falling off a little bit.
Go ahead,
Well, I
Mark.
think, they have 16 games in 29 of the days in January. They'll go out on the road for a few, lose 3 out there on the West Coast, and then come home for 2, and then go back out for 4. I mean, look, these guys are well-conditioned athletes who are in probably best shape of any professional athletes that are out there. But still, it's a toll. And if you're flying from Florida, if you're playing in New York, short, trip to Boston or Philly or Jersey or the island, very short. Here, there's no short road trips for the Lightning. You got to get on a plane and you got to go sometimes across time zones and stuff. And it's not as easy. And I'm not making excuses, but it's just, hey, they got off to a rough start. Look, I'd rather them lose now than in April and May. So let's get the losing out of the way and be done with it.
Yeah, I think I was listening to some of what Michigan was saying, Eric Erelson, Bobby the Chief, all those, and this is a very big month for them, but they can't fall too far behind this month. As Serena just said, we can't win in our own division. We're doing really bad in our own division, and we got Detroit again coming up here in a couple days. So that's going to be interesting. Montreal, we are hitting these teams when they are on hot streaks. Montreal is fun to watch. Like if you just watch the highlights of their games over the last 2 weeks, they are having fun. And I remember a Tampa Bay Lightning team that used to have the kind of fun that they did and won the Stanley Cup. So I think that's where the Lightning need to get back to. This Four Nations break couldn't come fast enough. We're getting ready to go on that. You're going to have some of the players that I think need to be rested. They're actually going to be playing. But then you're going to have Bassey. You're going to have Cooch. They're all going to get that 2-week vacation. So, get these games out of the way. Like Coop always says, you want to get more points than you have games. Right now,
Right.
we are not. We're 1 point under the amount of games that we've played. So we got to pick up some wins and get some more points here. And then I think he'll be happy going into that break.
Yeah, and there's still 9 games until we have that almost 2-week break, which unfortunately we've got a lot of players playing in. But luckily, not our best player, arguably. Some people wouldn't say, but I think Cooch is our best skilled player.
Yeah.
And Bassey, our goalie, gets some rest too. So there is some upside to that. By the way, I tweeted out a poll at We the Thunder Pod this morning on what you guys would like to see us do during this little break. So we already got some suggestions. It's a poll, so we threw out our own suggestions. One of them is, take some time off and enjoy not talking about the Lightning. I don't know how many votes that one has right now, but if you guys want to go put your votes in, one of the options is following the tournament, Team USA. The other one is just continue to talk about the Bolts. We could kind of track how the 5 Lightning players are doing. So if you want to go put your opinion in and tell us what you want us to do next month for this Four Nations tournament, please do over on Twitter, or X as they call it these days. Mike, what's your opinion of this Four Nations? Is this something you're going to be watching, this 4-team tournament?
If there's hockey on TV, I'm watching it. But this isn't something that I think is. I hate that you shut the NHL down for 2.5 weeks, and we're going to see it again during the Olympics because they have the agreement on that, and it's fantastic, from a global perspective. But as your team, like you mentioned, we have 5 guys playing in it, and it's just like granted, Cooch and Vassy can be rested, but I don't know. I have mixed emotions on it. I would love to see USA expand upon from the juniors, World Juniors championship that they had. It'd be great if the United States won this and stuff. That'd be fantastic. I think the better USA hockey does, it's better for the actual game itself as far as the attraction here in the U.S. But man, I mean, the way the Lightning are playing, I don't know. I don't know if I want them. Maybe if they keep playing the way they've been playing, 2 weeks off will be good to get a rhythm back. But I don't know. It's a disruption to the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be different. I like that they're trying something different, but it is kind of weird to have that extra bye week in there that some of the best players are playing in, and some are just going to be probably out vacationing, resting.
Imagine if the NFL did that and they shut down for 3 weeks in November to do a global football tour. It would never happen.
Yeah, that would be something. But yeah, we'll see what happens, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in these next 9 games because hopefully it's not a situation where we're begging for the Lightning to get a break because they're losing more games than they're winning, which has been the case so far in January.
They did send Crozier back today, so it's going to be interesting to see if they recall him tomorrow, if it was just paper transaction or if Chernak returns. But they did send him back.
Did they say anything yet on Chernak? Because that certainly looked like a long-term injury.
Day to day. He said day to day. Coop did.
Yeah, I think by now they would announce something if it was more of long-term or if he had to have surgery or something like that. So it'll be good to have him back. Nothing against Crozier. I think he's a good young player, but you can tell he's made some mistakes in these games that he's been in.
Honestly, I'd rather Crozier than someone like Perbix. I think Crozier from last year and this year is looking, if he gets full-time work in the NHL, he's ready for an NHL job.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and last night, unfortunately, Perbix Lilleberg struck again, the third line D, the game winner, which was Montreal, Jake Allen, or it was he's on their 4th line. So once again, the second time this season, Allen scores the game-winning goal in the 3rd period to beat the Bolts in a game where I thought we played better the majority of the game. We had a 2-0 lead, and it was the most concerning thing for me. Stanley Cup winning teams don't give up too many 2-0 leads throughout a season. So that's an indicator that I don't know if we're there yet to make a deep playoff run, because the best teams, when they get a lead, they keep a lead. If you take a look at some of the stats from the Florida Panthers last year, once they got a lead, they didn't give up those leads. And to see the Lightning, especially with Vassy and net, give up that lead, it wasn't good. As hot as the Montreal Canadiens are. Do you guys have any other thoughts on last night's game, since it's still a fresh wound?
Well, like you said, giving up the 2-0 lead, it's not the first time that's happened this year. We saw the Columbus game where they were just way ahead and they allowed Columbus to get back in it and win it. And I think a lot of the struggles that you're seeing that you just mentioned with Lilleberg and Crozier, remember 2 seasons ago, not last year, but season before, when Radish and Perbix were up, they were having some of the same struggles. So it's on-the-job training, and they don't have a choice right now because Moser's injured and Chernak is injured. So, I mean, it's what they have to work with without making a trade right now. And I don't think the Lightning are ready to deal. And, I mean, I think as it gets closer to March, I think, JBB is going to pull out his magic wand that he always does. He seems to do well with the deadline deals, and we'll see what he has in store for us after this tournament's done and as we get closer to the deadline.
Yeah, that's one thing about this tournament. After this tournament's over, Mosier is expected to return. He's been practicing and not in a red no contact jersey, in a regular jersey. So Coop said that timetable is still set. So I would expect him coming back after that. The other thing is when when we played those big defensive games like we did our Stanley Cup years where we were getting the hits also from the forwards and everybody
Yeah.
else, that's when we're not giving up those 2-0. You saw that, and we've talked about this before. It's just not the defenseman's job. Yeah, you saw Purvis out of place last night a couple of different times, but you know, those games, even against Toronto the night before, that was the same thing. There was a lot of players letting their guys just skate right by them. And kudos to JoJo for doing that wall up against the goalpost to not let Matthews do that lacrosse goal. It was good to see JoJo was prepared for that, but he should have never got to that point. We need to start doing the forechecks. We got to start getting back there and really laying the bodies on these guys.
Yeah. So a couple things on that. And I guess we'll find out with this next one, towards end of next month and the rest of the season. Is Mosier the glue to this defense? Because since he's been out, we've been losing a lot more games. So it'll be interesting to see if he really puts things together. The thing I've always liked about Mosier is he's super fast, right? Not a huge hitter, but he's super fast. So maybe they're missing Mosier a lot more than we think. And then the other thing that I've been thinking about watching some of these games, which you alluded to, Thomas, is we don't seem that physical. Like, yeah, Lilleberg's good for a couple hits every game. Chernak, when he's on the ice, he's our number one hitter. Although I saw Jurgensen's catching up now that he's been out so much, Chernak. But I'm trying to figure out like what team we have here. Is this a playoff team? Number one, is this a out in first round team like we have been the last 2 years, or is this a team that can actually make a run? And right now, I'm not that convinced that we're a deep playoff team with this roster.
No, and I think anytime you have guys named Kucherov and Vasi healthy and playing, I think you could say that they're a playoff team. I think those two guys are the catalyst to everything that we have going. But you're right. To make a deep run, there needs to be a deep impact. And whether that comes through the trade deadline or someone decides that, hey, I've been a little bit of a slump, and get after it. I think that's fantastic. I love Mosier. I think that, once he comes back, he reminds me a little bit of Danny Boyle a little bit with the speed, the way he just comes up and rushes the puck. That's a lot to put on a young kid who, because Boyle was a great scorer as well from the D slot. But it's going to be interesting to see. And I would love to see what happens with the third and fourth lines, because I think that's where we have the greatest opportunity to gain.
Yeah, another interesting thing that happened last night, sorry, Thomas, was they moved AC Mont up to the second line last night, and he actually played really well with Gensel. Maybe there's some sort of Gensel AC Mont chemistry that we don't know about that Cooper found in practice or something.
Well, they're fast. They're both smaller, fast guys.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say. You are seeing like Isima and Hagel trying to get that physicalness going, but they can't do it all. And Isimat's kind of doing some of those that are stupid and end up getting a penalty, which is what we lost the game the other day from.
Yeah, the other night he had a couple penalties too many.
Yeah. So, he's got to learn the smart way of taking those penalties and the not so smart way of taking those penalties and still be physical. And that's what you hope when they get these penalties, is that it doesn't make them go backwards a little bit and be like, oh, I can't do that now, because you still want them to do that. Just a smart way. If you're going to take a penalty, make sure you get the guy to come back at you so you guys both are off the ice.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Brandon Hagel, who's having up until the clock turned to 2025, fantastic season. Just in the last 5 games, though, the scoring touches in there, he's like a -7 or so in the last 5 games and stuff. So it's just, I don't know whether it's just like, hey, he could use the rest when that happens, but the Brandon Hagel I saw in October and November, I want to see him again, later this month of February and March. I think that'd be great for the team and the organization.
Yeah. And shout out to the chat here. Sarah is in the house and Serena, as always, is leading the pack in the chat here. Comments. I see the viewer number go up, and nobody wants to chat this month, Mike. It's like 2025. People's New Year's resolutions was not to chat on this show, but if you're listening, I welcome you. I know if you guys don't like my opinion on Twitter, I know you guys snap back at that. So if you can tell me in person, as in person as we are here, I don't get upset if you disagree with me on something. So one of the things that people were disagreeing with me on was I did not like the move to play JoJo in the first game of this back-to-back.
Right?
I and people right away were right at me with stats and Vassie's record against Toronto is this and this and this. I still think you play your best player against the best team.
Absolutely, and I was not crazy about it either, although I didn't voice it on Twitter. But I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I was seeing that day going like, why are you playing them against Montreal, not Toronto? We have to get the Toronto out of our heads for some reason. Whatever, psychologically, I know we match up against them well, but we're having our issues with them, and now we're having our issues with Montreal. So I think we just got to do something to get our butts in gear. We should beat Chicago this week, right? We should beat them on Friday. Should, and then we got Detroit. It'd be great to give Detroit back a little bit more of what we gave them last week. So,
some winnable games coming up. And I guess that leads to a good question because this week's wild, right? We've already had the back-to-back, and then we got a back-to-back Friday, Saturday. So who's starting Friday versus Chicago? That's the JoJo.
I think you need a
right?
win. You need a win. You need a win. You need to get someone off the schneid and stuff like that, and you need someone to backstop it. I say you got to go with Vassie in Chicago.
So you're saying
Connor
Vassie.
Bedard? Yeah. Need a win. We need to get a win.
Thomas,
yeah, but which one's your easier win, Chicago or Detroit?
On paper, it's Chicago, but the way this team's been playing, nothing on paper makes sense anymore.
No, you would have JoJo start that one and try to get that easy win, and then you'd put Vassie in Detroit against Detroit again and try to steal both those games. That would be my and lose both.
If you lose Friday, then what? You're right.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I always want your starter to be the front end of your back-to-back games. You've seen over these last couple seasons, because it always was before. It was always your starter got that first game of the back-to-backs. Now with all these analytics and versus and stats and everything else, now it's, we fare up better for this and this and this. So, who knows what the papers say, who should start there, but I always believe that your starter should start game one.
I like how you still get the paper delivered and let's see how you see who's starting. Thomas is old school.
I think we just have to have someone in Chicago throw some nachos on the ice, let the Lightning score a goal and nacho average goal, and everything will be fine.
All right.
I think that fan got banned from the arena for throwing those nachos on.
Yeah,
on
they
the
probably
ice.
did.
Yeah.
So some winnable games, but I agree with you, Mike. We gotta win some of these games here, especially against Chicago, and 2 of our next 3 are against Chicago. Those are games that this team's just gotta win. Let's go back.
Good old Pat Maroon. Pat Maroon in Chicago now.
Yes, Pat Maroon. He'll be back in the house on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to happier times. Last Saturday night, me and Schooley sitting together again, and I'll tell you what, this team just doesn't lose when you and I go to games. So,
I have not lost at a game yet, whether it's been me by myself, me in the press box, me sitting with you, or my away game that I went to in Nashville. We have not lost a game that I have been to yet this season. And hopefully I was supposed to be going to Detroit this Saturday, but I'm not. But hopefully the game the day before the Super Bowl, I'll be in Detroit.
Well, we need you at more games apparently, because I've been to a couple losses. I told Carly that you and me need to go to more games. She didn't like that idea.
I agree.
All right, but Yeah, Saturday night, Braden Point kicks it off. And this was a game I was a little bit nervous about because Detroit's showing some signs of life as they seem to do every season. Who knows if it'll last, but they'd been playing well, right? So Point kicks it off with an early goal. I'm going to patent it, the Point backhand. And he's trying it a lot more, too. He got shut down a couple times last night. But the backhander, and then the second period, these guys just went off. The 4 goals in the period, the 3 goals, the Gensel power play goal, Kucherov shortly after that, Mitchell Chafee after that, and before you know it, we've got a 4-0 lead on the Red Wings, who really didn't play an awful game, 39 shots to our 22, but this team was just finding the back of the net, much like they were doing in December. Thomas, what do you take away from that game? Darren Radish, by the way, had the 5th goal.
By the way, two things on that. They must have took a shot away after the game because it was 40 shots on goal. And you leaned over to me and said, okay, ever since I said I was mad at Point for missing that game, he's scored. So obviously it was us on the podcast last week telling Point we were disappointed in him for missing that meeting. But no, I mean, we were there in the stands, and it was definitely lopsided in shots and faceoffs. You looked up there and was like, it doesn't look like Tampa's winning a faceoff at all. I think at one time it was like 14-1. And so, but to have 40 shots, even though we won very easily, to have 40 shots on reach the goalie, that's not good. That shows you a lot of laps in the team right there. You can't have that from a team. So hopefully that's what I'm going to be looking for this Saturday when we face them again. If they're going to get 40 shots on goal, usually you win that game.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Detroit had 6 power plays that game. Yeah. We had a lot of penalties that game. All right, so that was 5-1 win over the Wings, and then go back to Thursday night. We had the shootout win versus the Anaheim Ducks. I miss the Mighty Ducks, and I don't like their new jerseys. Do you guys like these orange jerseys they got going on?
No,
and especially not Gudas in it.
Well, that's rude.
Yeah, Killorn doesn't look good in it either, for what it's worth.
He looks good.
That's who they had announce it when they came out with that. Gudas as the captain wearing this big old orange safety cone on Twitter. And they're ugly.
Only one team should wear orange, and that's the Flyers. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the old school Ducks. I like the purple and blue or green or whatever it was that they had, but I think they ruined it. I will say on TV, that orange looks like neon. It jumps out at you, but I do not like it. And neither did the Bolts because 4-3 shootout win. It was Gensel, only one that scored in the shootout to secure the victory. Gensel also had the power play goal. Sorelli had a power play goal. Braden Point, of course, had a goal. By the way, Cooch is on, I think, an 8-game scoring streak now. Any takeaways from last Thursday's game versus the Ducks?
Well, I mean, you bet you give it up a 2-0 lead, and it wasn't a 2-0 lead, but they had a 3-2 lead going into the third period and allowed Anaheim to come in and tie it. And that was just like, that's, again, a winnable game that you should have. We had 6 power play opportunities to their 3. And but they out hit us 24-12, and I think between that, block shots were tied. We had 15 giveaways, and that giveaway led to that last goal there in the third period, allowing to tie it. So it's tough. It's been the story of the season, games like that. But we got to find more ways to win, and we did. We won in the shootout. So I mean, that's a good plus to take away from it. But the game could have been so much better.
Yeah, it's a game you got to win.
Yeah, but on the other side, we just lost to them in California. So It's good that, it was home win, home and home, both teams won at their home. So it's an improvement from what we had seen a week
Scoring
before
one goal out there, yeah.
when they did the California trip. So
And again, a lot of shots. We had a lot of shots in this game, but Anaheim had more. It was Vasi with 34 saves. And two of the goals he let in were tip-ins, were deflections, which I mean, those have got to be the toughest goals to stop, right? Any type of redirect, whether it's a duck stick or going off a lightning defender skate. I just don't know if you can really blame a goalie on those types of goals.
no,
Yeah,
you've
I
been seeing
agree.
that a lot. You've been seeing that a lot more about around the league where they're practicing those kinds of things and they're practicing off the boards. We saw the Lightning get one of those the other day. It's those kind of I forget what game it was. I was watching highlights of the other day, and the player literally got two goals from off the goalie, and he was plainly getting them to deflect off the goalie into the net. And he got two goals that game, and I'm like, these are things that they're practicing nowadays, because the goalies are getting bigger, the pads are getting bigger, everything's there's not much room in that net anymore, so they're playing all these trick shots and trying to figure things out.
It's something I don't think the Lightning do enough. Like, we know that the Lightning love to have their pretty goals and get perfect shots off, but I just don't feel like they just throw the puck at the net enough. You guys must agree
Yeah.
with that, right?
Oh, 100%. I
Yanni
mean, there's times. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yanni used to do that in warmups. He would be on the ice for the last 3 minutes once most of the players were off, and that's all he did was tip-ins. He would have someone shoot at the net, and he would tip it in. Have someone shoot. That was something that Yanni practiced all the time, and he was good at it. We saw him redirect a lot of Yanni Gord's goals, even now in Seattle, are redirections because he has practiced and practiced that, and you don't see too many people doing that nowadays.
No, you had two guys who had Hall of Fame careers off that, Andrew Chuck and Dino Ciccarelli. They were the masters at that, and they were just the best at it. I mean, granted, both of them, what, 500-600 goals between each. So, you guys are right.
Yeah. And, if they continue to not score as many goals as they were scoring earlier in the season, maybe their philosophy changes. I mean, we've seen and we've noticed in certain games that after a loss where they, pass when they should have obviously shot. I know that happens every game, but there's some times where it's more atrocious than others. And we've noticed that the game after there is a effort to shoot the puck. The first one I remember this season was when Colorado came to town, and it was like, oh,
Mm.
these guys are shooting the puck tonight. I know it was a couple months ago, but you could really tell. But I don't think they're thinking about that every game. And I bet that changes. I bet that gets planted in their ear a lot more if we continue to only score one or two goals a game.
Yeah, I think the hard part is
Something
that,
I did
once
notice that no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, once you get closer to April and May, goals are going to be harder to come by. You got to throw it at the net. You're not going to be scoring 7 or 8 goals in a playoff game. I mean, logic tells you that, but I mean, there are going to be anomalies, obviously. But those goals are going to be hard. The defenses are going to tighten down. And trust me, maybe some of the reason why we're seeing some of the problems with the Lightning from an offensive standpoint is that they've seen how Gensel plays and where he's going and where the lanes are and how they're passing it to him. They're, the teams that are doing it right are shutting those lanes down on them.
The thing I've noticed this season with the Lightning more too is they're focusing more on screening the goalie, which
Yeah.
they've never really done, and they've really been when they get it right. And when they don't get it, it ends up going the other way. But you have seen more focus on them screening that goalie this season. And I just wish, they can either stick to it or figure something out or go with the tip ins. You can't have both because it ain't working.
Yeah. Well, they got to do something. Let's get this chat going. Let's play a little game. If next game, if somebody can guess what beverage I'm drinking right now in the chat, I will buy you a $20 beer at the next game, or however much they cost. So come on, chat. It doesn't have to be the next game. The next game you go to, you let me know you're going, and I will buy you a beer or a soda. It doesn't have to be a beer. But if you can guess what this drink is, come on, chat.
Is it something anybody would know?
Yeah. Very common.
Uh,
drink. Very common.
I was like, it's
Is it-
going to be
are
some
there-
like Shirley.
Very
Are
good.
there any
guess.
bubbles in it?
There are when you pour it, but it's not like a bubbly drink. So no, I'm right. Very quiet, by the way, for a guy who's always right. It is not highlight, but that is an excellent guess. That's probably what I would guess too. But yeah, put those guesses in there. All right. So Chicago, Detroit, and Chicago before our next game. Easily 2-1, right?
3-0.
I was just going to say that 3-0. It could be. And then you got the Islanders at home after that. So 2 games against
Kings.
Ottawa after.
We got Kings on the
Canes.
30th.
Oh, that's right. Canes. Yeah, I'm looking ahead to February. I'm sorry.
To wrap up the month.
28th and 30th. Yep.
Which is a tough game. The Kings always seem to play the Lightning pretty well. But yeah, I think it's 2-1. I think they drop one of those games. Like I said, they seem to be tired, but after losing 2 games, we know we're going to see a pretty spirited effort on Friday night. I love a good Friday night hockey game, by the way. 8 o'clock.
Especially in Chicago.
Yeah. All right. Recently, we got news that we have an outdoor game coming. You going to try to go to that, Mike?
I hope so. Yeah. Why not? Have you ever done an outdoor game, either one of you?
We did. We went to Nashville to see the Lightning
Okay.
beat the Predators. That was my first and only. I think, Thomas, yours too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something about. I went to a winter classic in Philly a few years ago when the Rangers played the Flyers up there, and it was ass cold up there because we were in the top of Philly at Citizens Bell Park or whatever they were calling it at that time. It was cold. The beer like literally froze.
I don't think we have to worry about beer freezing.
Yeah, we were.
No, but what if it's like it is today or tomorrow? Yeah, what if?
Yeah, the sad part is right now we don't get this outdoor game, and then next year, February 1st, it's gonna be like 87 degrees.
Right,
And here we
87
got
degrees, 100% humidity.
Snow in the Panhandle right now, but here we go. But no, when we were in Nashville for that, I had so many Serena had given us those little hot hands, and then out they had that little beach area in front of the Nashville one where they had different little companies out there giving tchotchkes and stuff, and it was more hot hands. So I had so many hot hands in my jersey, in my shoes, in my pockets. It was super cold up in Nashville. I see you're getting ready to do this weekly challenge, Shooter. But before you do that, I want to talk. Oliveira goes way back with the Lightning. And
In other words, you're calling me old.
Listen, I'm right there with you. But I've heard some old stories, some good. I mean, you have some players' phone numbers that you talk to on a regular. Was it Graham? I know it was a goalie. Is it Graham that you're good buddies with?
Wendell Young, the first player ever selected by the Lightning in the expansion.
Yep.
So he's a really good ride. Text with him every now and then. Rico Ciccone, who will be back in a couple weeks for the alumni weekend when Brian Bradley goes in the Hall of Fame. So I talked with him. And then Roman Hammerlick is the weirdest thing. He will send me DMs on Instagram from his family's vacation, just taking pictures. And then we'll randomly just have convos on Instagram. So still talk with Roman, and Graham was a good one too. And then Joe Ricci, who used to play back in the day. So at one time we had, talk about beer league hockey. There was a team with a front office called the Frightening. and they played. It was their first couple of years, and they played over at Clearwater, and they had Wayne Cashman, Phil Esposito, Danny Gare, Ron Duguay. I mean, they all played for the team on a regular basis. Our team was the only team to ever beat them, and in the beginning, they were just playing around, and it's like, oh, these cute kids they were playing. I mean, beer league guys. We were champions of the league. And we got out to a 10-5 lead, and then they came hard and fast at us. And our goalie, Jeff Brockman, was standing on his head that day. And literally, we won 12-11, and they were pissed. We played them again in the championship, and they waxed us 16-3. It was terrible. Cash started the game by drilling some guy's head into the boards. So, yeah, that was that. Yeah, you don't want to piss off Cash.
How did you get involved with the Lightning? Because it was way before the Bone.
Yeah. So we had, I was working over at Clear Channel. Oh, it wasn't Clear Channel, it was J-Core. No, it was even CityCasters. That's how far back it was. We signed the first Dasher board agreement out of everyone. I was telling our boss, like, we got to get on the Dashers, got to get on the Dashers. If you see any of those highlights from the barn or the Thunderdome, you'll see the old 98 Rock dashboard up there. And we had that, and we were involved. I did the pregame music I did the in-game music for 4 years. So, that was fun too. So a lot of stories with that one.
So you're an OG fan. We usually ask fans. So were you at the first game?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I was in charge of the music, and back then it wasn't CDs. Well, there were some CDs, but there were these cart machines that were like 8-track tapes. And I asked our production guy, I go, hey, there's a song that came out in the 70s called The Night Chicago Died. I need that on a cart. He goes, why? I go, just in case. He goes, they're not going to win tonight. I go, I have a feeling. So as soon as the game was over at the end, if you watch the full game replay still, you'll hear The Night Chicago Died, had that thing ready and stuff. So that was a lot of fun being there. Esposito and Tony were right next to me. There's John. Now he's an OG, John Harris. So, so that was a lot of fun doing that and doing the music. And we did things differently that weren't done in the NHL at that time. So it was a lot of fun.
I wish I lived here.
I had always known you from here and winning promotion. I used to win on the radios all the time. I was one of the last callers when Q105 stopped doing their when they went to country back when they used to do top 40.
Oh, when they became the Buzz or whatever, or the B or the Buzz or whatever. Yeah.
They used to do the Q Morning Zoo when I was a kid, you know. It was all Tukey and had the Tukey bird. It's just Florida radio and Tampa radio has always been my home. And so, I've heard Mike go. And then when I heard that you did the music on one day on your show, when you were doing your show, you were talking about you were playing something and the broadcasters in the booth next to you started like banging on the wall or something because you were too loud. It was Espo. And I was like, and that's the day I tweeted out to Shooter, hey, we got to get him on the show because he has some funny, good stories about old Lightning stuff that, people don't really, there's a lot of fans that were back in the day, but don't relate to some of these things. And then we've had so many new fans.
We had that place when we had 27,000 people inside the Thunderdome against the playoff game against Philly. We had that place rocking. It was probably Jerry Helper, was the PR guy, said that was the best set of music he ever heard in a hockey game. So we had that whole, from the time the game started to the end, we just had bangers out there. It was just, and it was big because we won that game in overtime. It was fantastic. That's the first time, we had our playoffs appearance, and that was at the Thunderdome. We had that place packed. And it was just a lot of fun to do when you could see that something you're doing outside of the play, lift up the crowd a little bit, and then the players just do their job and finish it off. It's amazing.
Yeah, that must have been a scene. I know whenever I wear, it doesn't matter if I'm in a game or just out and about, whenever I wear my Thunderdome shirt, I get multiple comments on it.
Yeah.
But I did not live here for that. Sadly, I guess it was a good thing that, the Ice Palace, as I still call it, was erected before I came here. So that's all I've ever known is
that's all a lot of people ever know. And it's a beautiful facility, and we met with them yesterday without giving away too much. There's going to be some stuff done in the next few years to that. And It's hard to believe that place could be better, but it will be. So good stuff.
Yeah. Which, by the way, so we've seen you up in the press box. You helped us. Thank you, by the way, with giving us some tips before.
You
our
guys
first
deserve
time
it,
out
yeah.
there. But we had this guy Trey Matthews who we met up there during one of the games. He does a podcast and for the Devils, and I was asking him about like press boxes and where he'd kind of rank Emily as compared to he's been to several others, and he put us in like the top two.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know because there was nothing else I had to compare it to, but that was another pleasant surprise. He says
Only behind the Staples Center. And he said the reason why it's only behind the Staples Center is that we are a mini Staples Center press box, that it reminds him so much of the Staples Center's press box, but that one is so huge. But he said Emily, and he said he's been to so many, New Jersey, obviously, and Florida, Arizona. He's been to so many of them that he said Emily was one of the best ones.
Very cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat that you go into Emily press box and you'll see Scotty Bowman up there. I mean, that's, if you're an older hockey guy like me, see one of the greatest coaches ever in the league up there. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's been a good time up there. By the way, Serena, it is not hot chocolate. I'm as cold as it is. I'm not a big hot chocolate guy, but keep those guesses coming. We only got a couple minutes left on the show. I do want to do the weekly challenge now, Mike. For fun, we just kind of have our own little challenge, and
right.
You can fill it out. There's a private chat where I sent you the link, and you can fill it out, or you can just give us your answers. But we're gonna go through this.
We private chat.
We do it. You can just let me know. We've only had one winner. That was me. It's actually pretty tough. And if you win, you get to pick anything out of Thomas's trunk that you want. Now, you might think that that's a bad thing, but Thomas's trunk is a treasure chest of lightning, everything. You want some lightning underpants?
I'm just eyeing the stuff that's in his room and stuff like that, or those sticks, or that, to hold the Stanley Cup. Do I get to have that?
Nothing compared to the trunk. The trunk's like bigger treasures in there.
Oh, okay.
I see. It looks like we already got some entries so far. So usually we go game by game. So this week we're finally down to 3 games again, which is nice. So we'll start with Friday's game against Chicago, and that is, does Bedard score a goal versus the Bolts on Friday? Thomas, what do you say?
No.
Mike?
Nah.
I'm going with you guys. No way they're letting that kid score. Although the first time he came to Emily Arena, he scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
If you remember that. But a little bit of a dip this season. I think he's still a point a game guy, though. I think he's getting a tough time because he's not, McJesus. Which we got to talk about that after this. Who wins Saturday, Lightning or the Red Wings? Mike?
The Bolts.
It's a 5-4 overtime game, Lightning.
I like it. I'm going Lightning too. I made this one really easy this week, by the way. This is the toughest question. Last one. Kings versus Lightning. Final score. I'll start it off. I'm going to say 5-2 Bolts. That's a home game. Final score.
I say 4-3 Bolts.
4-3 Bolts. And Mike?
I say 5-1 Bolts. I'd like 5-1 from Saturday night. So against Red Wings, let's do it against LA. We'll pay homage to their firefighters before the game, probably, or we'll have our own first responders that we'll honor, and then we'll go out there and beat the Kings.
And by the way, that game, I said Tuesday. Tuesday, Chicago is in town.
Thursday, LA.
LA. We can't get that LA game right. All right. So, yeah, I wanted to bring this up with you guys. I just totally forgot about it today. Connor McDavid suspended for 3 games. What's happening? This is the savior of the league. This is, how could this happen? Do you guys, and I guess you guys have probably seen it, but I'll explain it for anyone that didn't know what happened. The Oilers were playing Vancouver last week, And Garland, who, if you remember our game against Vancouver early this season, he's just an agitator, right? Like that's his thing. He's a pain in the ass. And he just spent the last 30 seconds of this game when I believe they were trying to tie it up. Edmonton, that is, trying to tie it up, pull their goalie. And Garland is just mugging Connor McDavid. Like he is basically tackling him. And McDavid's, trying to get open to get, one last shot on, try to tie the game, and super frustrated. And McDavid just cross-checks him right in the mouth and gets 3 games. I got to say, was it deserved? 100%. Yes. Am I surprised it happened? Absolutely. Like I thought, yeah, he's going to get a game, but for them to give him 3 games, to me was a surprise. What did you guys think that was going to happen?
I didn't. It was a Connor on Connor crime, but I don't think it warranted 3 games.
This was his second trip to player safety, so you knew it was at least one game. I was shocked that they did 3 games, but I think they did that because they also suspended Vancouver's guy 3 games that did the same thing, and just right out of camera angle of McDavid. Everybody's sitting there looking at the McDavid one, and then he's in the background doing the same thing. So I think they had to give equal punishment to both of them.
Yep, and that's what they did. All right, let's take a look real quick. Oh, I just went off the page at these standings.
I have a question for Mike Go. What happened to all the little free tchotchkes at the 1025 Bone the Tent at Amalie Arena?
We started doing like some where you could get QR codes to win some autograph swag, and we're giving away seats on the bench and stuff. We ran out of it. We had a bunch of lightning stuff. I have a couple held back, so if you need one, let me know.
That's where I got my Drew Garabo shirt, actually.
Yeah.
I used to, so it was back when Hoppy was the person standing there a lot, and you used to have to answer, and their trivia was, tell us someone on the bone. And I'd be like, what order would you like? I'll give you the whole lineup till the end. And
can you give us the lineup now? So we change things up. So do you have the new lineup?
It's easy. You got the Mike Calta show. You have the after show with Johnny B. Then you have the Senning show. Oh, no, JP show with Monica and Dizzy. Then you have the JP show, or JP featuring, and then the Senning show with Dizzy, but that's only until 3:00. Then Drew Garabo joins him for John's Joints, and that's from 3 until 4. And then from 4 until 7, you got Drew Garabo featuring Mo. And then there is no more live programming after 7:00. It goes straight into replays unless there's a Tampa Bay Lightning game, and then it goes straight into the Lightning game.
Or on Wednesdays, we have Ask the Dom from 7 to 10.
Ask the Dom, yeah.
Oh, come on, Schooley. Come on.
You're almost right.
Only on Wednesdays. That's only on Wednesdays.
I was going to let you go through the prize closet and grab anything you wanted. You got that one wrong. All right. That's pretty good.
He's the right person to ask, though, because I don't know if anyone listens to the Bone more than Thomas Schooley does.
There is 2 fan groups that we have, the Boneheads and the Bone Fam. And between them all, man, good God, they know more about the station.
And right now, they're doing a $1,000 keyword that you have to put in the app. Yeah. And if you join the group, the Bone Fam, they have a chat just for the keywords of the day. So you have 30 minutes to put it in the into the app. So if you join that, you don't even have to be listening. They will put the keyword in there.
We want you to listen, though. Come on.
Right, yeah. Listen, I go to bed listening to replays. It's sickening. It's sad. But I do have the
You're my favorite listener, man.
I have the tattoo that Calta did back when we played Pittsburgh in the playoffs, and he was fighting with the Pittsburgh people. And so I've got that from him. I've told you, I know Javon. I'm friends with Cernak. When I worked at Little Caesars down on 4th Street, we actually Javon came down there with the Hummer, and we donated a whole bunch of pizzas for you guys and went over there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, if for some reason it's horrible. I mean, I'm not medicine man bad. I just like the radio station.
You gotta call,
Hey.
I think you got to call in more, Thomas, because I listen when I can, usually in my car. But I feel like if you called in more, it would add a lot to these shows. I do have a good.
I was on the first day of JP's new show. They were
Nice.
asking listeners to call in, so I called in because Calta had talked about the new show in the morning and saying how it was going to explode with just JP and Monica, and that Dizzy's just going to throw gas on that fire. So I asked him if he had heard about it, and he had said no. So I had informed him of what happened, and that Mike said he was the ones that got the other two. So,
Ty's saying he calls in all the time. I don't hear that either. Here's a good question for Mike though. There is one on-air personality from the Bone that has been on this show as a guest. Can you guess who it was?
Oh, geez. Johnny B?
Yep. Yeah, he was on last season because he was doing
he was the post game,
and he was doing some of the stuff with Block Party too, and he actually came on when we were doing the Rays thing. I should say you were doing the Rays thing, Schooley, when they were in the playoffs, when they made it to the World Series. I just showed up. I did watch those games. I just can't talk baseball. But he came on because he's a huge Rays fan.
Have you heard him sing?
Yes.
I've heard he did the national anthem.
Yeah.
I've been to his comedy show too. I think his comedy is hilarious.
His comedy is hilarious. No, that's why he does it and stuff. But he's going to be doing it on the Celtic Cruise. Johnny's just great. He's just one of those guys. You have a conversation with him, and it's hard to keep a straight face. He's good at what he does, and glad to have him on the station. He's a great guy.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. Thomas Schooley's camera probably has a low frames per second. Thomas, what are you doing?
Just told me that too.
Never seen that pop up. Before I forget, the drink of the night. Nobody got it. Only got 2 guesses. Orange juice. We had orange juice. In my house, if you have orange juice, you better get a glass before it's gone because it just goes fast. So I saw some orange juice in the fridge. I had to grab some. All right. Well, Mike, thank you for helping us out on our press box journey. And thanks for jumping on the show. I told you this will probably be the fastest hour of your life.
I appreciate you guys having me. I'm very humbled and I'm very grateful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And
Shooter,
Mike's here.
We're signing off.
Cernak.
There's Cernak right there. We're signing off too, Shooter.
Yes, sir. Why, you got anything else?
No, I wanted to tell him a quick funny story off the air about Mo's other job that he can harass Mo about.
Have you gone through TSA with him?
No, my friend works with him. So,
Lucky him.
She's a TSA
lucky
person.
her.
Yeah, so I got 2 real quick funny stories that you can harass him about.
All
right. Well, let's wrap this thing up then. Until next Wednesday, we will be back, and we will be back with a former Lightning champion, a Stanley Cup champion, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, only once with the Bolts. But Chris Dingman is scheduled to join us next week. We might have to go a little bit later. So stay tuned. Follow on X, We the Thunder Pod, to know, and we'll put it on Facebook too, what time we'll go live. But Chris is out in Western Canada, so we might have to.
I'm hoping so, because they're doing the live taping of the Block Party again next Wednesday, and guess who's supposed to be there?
Oh, so we're gonna get you outside. All right. Well, join us next week. And until then, this has been We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.
That's it?
That's it.